is another disturbing type of video, you know, which is called the most disturbing crimes that happen in the gacha game community. Ooh. So we got a Yap Master video. It came up on my feed, so I'm very curious. I see Genshin Impact in the thumbnail, so I'm very curious if they're going to talk about that one voice actor that got outed out or so if we're talking to little kids. But I'd be very curious to see what other disturbing things happen in the gacha community. And now tell me about it.
These are the most disturbing crimes that happen in the gacha games community, and as the video progresses, things go from bad to unimaginably disturbing. Nothing brings more excitement to players than the rush of a loot box. But just as easily, that same thrill can become deceitful. For context, loot boxes are locked virtual containers in video games that give players random rewards when opened. The rewards can include items like weapons, skins, characters, players, or other valuable in-game content. Although loot boxes can be earned through gameplay, they can also be bought with real or in-game currencies. On January 17, 2025, the Federal Trade Commission would post a press release banning Genshin Impact game developers from selling loot boxes to younger people, in addition to a substantial $20 million fine to settle FTC charges. But before anyone could actually grasp the details, another news hit the internet about Cognosphere, Genshin Impact's publisher, agreeing to pay the $20 million fine, while also confirming that it would no longer allow younger people of certain ages to make in-game purchases without parental consent. Now, Cognosphere's response raised questions about why the company never tried to fight back, but instead immediately agreed to pay. However, a quick look at the FTC's press release would provide answers to many questions. According to Samuel Levine, the director of the FTC's Bureau of Consumer Protection, Genshin Impact deceived and other players into spending hundreds of dollars on prizes they stood little chance of winning. And although the allegation looked like it came out of nowhere, the tension had been silently building for 8 years. Back in 2017, a heavy global backlash erupted over an EA game. To be more specific, Star Wars Battlefront 2 for the use of loot boxes.
This is where the ending of loot boxes
into these boxes throughout the entire gaming community. Then in August of 2019, the FTC held a workshop that involved academics, consumer advocates, and others to talk about the marketing of loot boxes and the impact on younger consumers. And this would result in the FTC releasing consumer advice to educate parents and users about the concept of loot boxes in a pretty lengthy article. But even with that, the problem still persisted. However, considering the origin of gacha games, it's not surprising that loot boxes are a vital part of the game. And if you didn't know already, gacha games originated from Japan, and its name is derived from the Japanese toy vending machines called gachapon. Taking this particular gachapon as an example, you could win any of the cars on the label if you put in 300 yen, or about $2. However, you would have to bank on your luck to get your desired car, since the reward is usually selected at random. This mechanism is very similar to loot boxes, which would explain why a lot of money is being pumped into it. Now, before September 2020, the big gacha games were only available on mobile phones, but everything changed on September 28, 2020, when Genshin Impact was launched and made available on laptops and PS4. It really was a game changer for both fans and the company, as the game has generated over $5 billion in revenue since its inception. For comparison, GTA was launched in 1997, and it has a total revenue of $10 billion, while Genshin Impact has made half of that in just 5 years. The major problem lies in HoYoverse, intention, and target audience. Back in December 2022, HoYoverse became aware of the FTC's investigation into loot boxes, and immediately responded by adding a notice to the second to last part of its privacy policy, disclaiming that it's marketed its services to adults and adults only. Our services are not marketed to...
Wait a second. Didn't you guys said that Genshin Impact was supposed to be for kids or so? And then you guys said Honkai Star Rail is supposed to be targeted towards the teens. Zenless Zero is supposed to be targeted towards the gooners. Something's not right here. I remember they said something about that. Something a little bit odd and suspicious there.
Or intended for are not permitted to use these services, and we do not knowingly collect any personal information from Though our services are not intended for as the primary audience, we may collect age information before allowing a user to proceed for certain services. But this actually turned out to be a lie, because after the investigation, the FTC discovered that HoYoverse did market to younger people by using characters that appealed to younger audiences and intentionally hired influencers who targeted a younger demographic to promote the game. This included, for example, It's Funny, a YouTuber who makes content for This video was paid by HoYoverse to make this video showing how to play hide and seek on Genshin Impact. Another example would be SS Sniper Wolf, who was paid over $100,000 to record 2 short videos promoting Genshin Impact.
Brother in Christ, you paying $100K for SS Sniper with HoYoverse? Man, if you want to set money on fire, just send it to me. Fucking A, man. Jesus Christ, I swear to God, man.
For context, SS
Honestly.
Sniper Wolf has tens of millions of subscribers on YouTube and is a two-time winner of Nickelodeon's Choice Awards in their favorite gamer category. And to make things worse, the SS Sniper Wolf promotional video was intentionally edited to trick users into believing it's easy to get the loot box prizes he really wanted. For instance, when a Genshin Impact player opens a loot box containing a 5-star prize, the game displays a golden shooting star animation. But in the SS Sniper Wolf video, the supposed 5-star win was preceded by a purple shooting star animation. This video also depicted an uninterrupted succession of 12 loot box opening animations when the game allows no more than 10 loot boxes to be opened at a time. And this situation would eventually lead to discussions within the gacha community, with some blaming bad parenting for younger people's addictive in-game purchases and others calling out the companies themselves. At the end of the day, the company released a statement confirming that the developer of Genshin Impact has reached a settlement agreement with the US Federal Trade Commission.
Damn.
But as weird as this was, it's nothing compared to what comes next.
I have to spread my wings sometime and waste all of our money on Genshin Gacha. You know this. I set those boundaries, you narcissist.
Oh, is this?
On March 19th,
is this the one that I think this is for the
Reddit user
Farina
known
one?
as Creative Guard posted a story on the Am I Overreacting subreddit, detailing how her fiancé, whom we'll call Phil, blew $600 on a Genshin Impact character.
Oh my
Unlike
god,
most
it
games,
fucking
the thrill
is.
in
It's the
Genshin Impact
Farina
doesn't come from
one.
winning a match or finishing a level, but instead it's about getting the rare 5-star playable character, which are usually stronger
Say the
than the
name.
others and possess unique abilities
Say
that play
the
a significant
name.
role in the outcome of the gameplay. Players need an in-game currency called Primo Gems, which are either earned through gameplay or purchased with real-life money. In Phil's case, he'd been unlucky with getting his favorite character for so long, which changed on March 19th, 2025, when he decided to try it out one more time with a credit card jointly owned by him and his fiance. After Creative Guard
This
found
shit
out
was
that Phil
funny.
had squandered their joint savings, she called him repeatedly, but he never responded. And shortly afterwards, Phil would send a shocking text that took the situation from bad to worse. Stop calling me. We need to talk right now. Pick up now. You're not being fair at all. I explain my boundaries to you, but you're not respecting them. This is exactly what Redacted says is violent about you. You spent $600 on our credit card on a game. I explained it already to you. $600 for 2 virtual characters you don't need, without asking. When we're paycheck to paycheck, that card was for emergencies with the Civic. Even though Creative Guard is obviously annoyed, Phil would remain unfazed, and to make the situation even worse, he would respond with a picture of Farina, the rare character he just won. You told me you wanted her too, but you aren't happy for me. Actually, I'm done. I'm a 29-year-old man. I'm allowed to make purchases without needing your permission. That is a violent dynamic. Redacted explained that very clearly to me. Yes, I said I want Farina. I didn't say we should spend hundreds to get consolations. You're an addict. You already spent all of our Christmas money on it. You are snooping into your fiance's purchases. You should take a look at yourself. To that, Creative Guard would only respond with a middle finger emoji, followed by another message that read, "This is a shared card that I set up for emergencies, and you went behind my back. Why don't you tell Redacted about your gambling addiction to video game characters?" Phil would then simply double down and threaten to call off his engagement. Actually, Redacted told me all about your coercing, and I believe you are a narcissist personality. This is why you are continuing to try and control me and control my financial decision making. You know this is my values, and I've had Farina as my wallpaper forever. I refuse to be verbally disrespected for being myself. I am battling anxiety, and you do not care at all. I don't want to get married to you. I'm not talking on the phone. I emailed screenshots for my appointment tomorrow. Thank you for giving me a horrible anxiety attack and ruining my night. And no, I didn't do a thing with Farina yet because of your calls. But while Phil's threat was meant to break Creative Guard's heart, she would fire back with a threat that would actually make any Genshin player lose their minds. I will call Capital One and dispute the charge. Your account will get banned. Try it. You will lose me forever. I'm going to Scottsdale for the night. Stop calling me for 12 hours and we can talk then. Good night. At this point, Creative Guard decided to let him be, but the next morning, Phil was back in her DM with both an apology and a new request. Will you please answer my mom? Please. I apologize for my reaction. As I said, my anxiety is bad today, and I have to do better. I love you. You don't need to dispute the charges. I will get you the money soon. Redacted can spot me 600 tonight. So can you text him your Venmo? Anxiety is really bad. Please. Creative Guard ignored the message, only to return to Reddit a couple of hours later with an update, explaining the events that followed after she refused to answer the calls of Phil's mom. His mom left me a voicemail saying I gave him a panic attack and to give him space. I did text his drug dealing friend to try and get the $600, but he left me on red. Also, he's currently online on Discord playing Genshin Impact at his mom's house. This was then followed by another update detailing how she called off the engagement, got back her $600, and how she has to pay the rent all by herself now. But even though Creative Guard would need all the help she could get to sort out her bills, she chose to walk away from it all. As she posted a final update, engagement is off. This next case, however, takes an even darker turn.
Do not let people, especially randos, into your world.
Is that fucking?
On August
Is that
25th,
what's his name?
2023, a Twitter user named Eon would make a disturbing
Is that
post that
Bran?
rippled through the Genshin Impact community, sending waves of fear and confusion.
Don't let strangers join your world, at least for now. Travelers, be careful with the new Kave bug. According to a Reddit user, Antonio S3, there's a new bug in the CN server that's been causing some irreversible damages.
Oh yeah, I heard about this one. So basically, the whole bug or so is like, I think with a certain ability from Kave or so, deletes like stuff in your world and everything like that. Apparently that's a thing that happened back then.
Permanently deleting interactive objects.
Eon went on to emphasize how the exploit affected the foundations of a player's world, such as structures, objects, and entities. He then ended the tweet by saying,
I know that might be the only one in the CN server, but for now, just be careful with anything suspicious, and please do not accept random people in your world. That's all. Take care.
Almost immediately, members of the Gacha community began to clarify the situation, with one user saying,
It's not a bug, but hack codes. Basically, they rewrote the object's coding into Dendro cores, then used Kave skills to boom them. Unless you're skilled in coding, I doubt everybody is able to pull this stunt.
So far, Hoyo is still investigating this issue. And while this might seem like a minor issue, to Hoyoverse, it meant a threat to the game's integrity. And the seriousness of the situation prompted the Shanghai Police Security Bureau to launch a full investigation. But this case would actually remain unsolved for nearly 2 years. However, in May 2025, the investigation would finally end in arrest. Hoyoverse, working in cooperation with Chinese authorities, would confirm the outcome in a statement released by its legal department. The original statement, although written in Chinese, was later translated by user Wizcifer123, and it reads,
Recently, MiHoYo has made further progress in its campaign against game cheating, in cooperation with the Shuhui District Police Bureau in Shanghai. Together, they investigated and cracked down on a case involving the illegal dissemination of a cheat plugin for Genshin Impact called Open World Erasure, which disrupted the in-game economy and severely harmed other players' experiences.
During the investigation, authorities locked up several key suspects, but the major perpetrators behind the attack actually remained at large before they would eventually be caught as well. The investigators discovered that the cheat had been circulating primarily through QQ groups, which is a popular social messaging platform in China, similar to Discord or Telegram. The plugin targeted Genshin Impact's co-op mode, the multiplayer system where players team up to explore worlds together. And while co-op allows up to 4 players, only the host would receive the rewards. Yet any player sharing a world with a malicious user risked having vital in-game structures and materials deleted, characters destroyed, or even crashes that caused permanent damage. And before the arrest could actually happen, the hack had already affected over 20,000 players, leaving the community in a state of heightened paranoia about inviting.
It wasn't Kave that caused the issue. It was the plugin to make Kave do that, you know, became the world deleter.
Strangers into co-op sessions. But as bad as this sounds, it was only the beginning. Further investigations would reveal the full scope of the operation. The perpetrators not only created the cheat, but also actively taught others to adapt and improve it. And by the time the scheme was exposed, membership in these plugin groups had expanded to over 360 individuals. In May of 2025, police then raided several cities including Shanghai, Nanning, and Guangzhou, arresting 3 major suspects, 2 identified as the plugin creators and 1 known as JJX, who was the admin of the QQ group distributing the cheats. The aftermath of this case would eventually force MiHoYo to consider the safety of its game environment entirely. According to the statement released after the smoke cleared,
in recent years, MiHoYo has continuously updated its anti-cheat safety strategy. In the second half of 2024, MiHoYo cooperated with police to uncover multiple criminal groups producing cheats of Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, arresting 32 suspects, detaining 25, and shutting down 27 e-commerce shops. Going forward, MiHoYo will continue to strengthen inspections and crack down severely on infringing behavior. Players are.
You want to know something? At least Hoyoverse cracks down on cheaters, not like compared to Call of Duty, Apex Legends, Counter-Strike, and insert any other multiplayer game that's in the Western Hemisphere. That is crazy though. At least fucking hey, I gotta give them props, okay? At least they crack down on cheaters, okay? Not like compare like the Western people.
Encouraged to actively report violations and join in protecting a healthy and orderly gaming ecosystem.
This case ended with more and more arrests. This was a terrible experience for Genshin Impact players, but it wasn't the first time the community would face huge problems with hackers.
As 3 cheat makers from Shanghai have been sentenced to jail time.
Genshin Impact
In
cheat
October
makers.
of 2020, a group of hackers would take things to a whole new level, crossing a line that not only threatened the stability of the game, but also forced Hoyoverse to take unprecedented legal action. According to reports, a certain group had begun developing a powerful cheat software as early as 2020, capable of granting players infinite Primo Gems, Genshin's most valuable in-game currency. And between October 2020 and May of 2021, they sold nearly 40,000 activation keys, profiting close to $300,000. And for several months, these criminals were never caught. But by mid-2021, Chinese authorities actually managed to crack down on this operation, arresting 3 individuals identified as Zhou, San, and Yao. Investigators would later find out that Zoe
I don't
was
think
the
I've heard
ringleader
of this
who,
one
according to
before.
reports, negotiated with Sun to get data from Genshin Impact from Yao in order to mass-produce the cheats. Eventually, the three of them would plead guilty and be sentenced according to the gravity of their actions. Zoe, the group's leader, received jail time of 4 years, along with a 50,000 Chinese yuan fine. The second group member was sentenced to 3 years and 10 months in jail, with another 50,000 Chinese yuan fine, while the third group member was given 1 year and 6 months with a 10,000 Chinese yuan fine. For reference, 50,000 Chinese yuan is currently about $7,000. A happy ending for Hoyoverse, unlike the next case where a hacker did something horrible and got away with it.
Only one day after its release, Infinity Nikki was hacked with a bold statement. Yourself or just better try Genshin Impact private server.
What the?
It was December 5th,
hacking
2024. The gacha community was buzzing with excitement and anticipation for the launch of Infinity Nikki, a new gacha game developed by Infold Games. Unlike most gacha games where players spend money to pull for characters or weapons, Infinity Nikki offers something very different. Here, players pull for fashion outfits that grant Nikki, the main character, unique powers and abilities, which it then uses to explore its beautifully crafted open world. But while players hurried to the official site to download the game, the excitement quickly turned into horror, because the moment they entered the site, they were met with a disturbing message plastered across the home page.
Take yourself out of this world, or just try Genshin Impact private server.
Beneath the message was a QR code, which reportedly directed users to a Genshin Impact Discord server, and within minutes, the chaos spread into the official website for Love and Deep Space, another game developed by Infold Games. For nearly an hour, both sites were taken down after their front pages got hijacked by an unknown hacker, and then just as quickly as
I've never heard of this one before. This is the one okay, this one I have not heard about the hacking. This is the first time I've ever heard about this one.
begun,
And the
the
last
sites
one
were
too as
restored,
well.
and the message was gone, but the damage was still there. The QR code led to speculations that this was some kind of provocation from an outsider trying to stir conflict between fans of Genshin Impact and Infinity Nikki. But soon afterwards, community members tracked the attack to a Discord username known as Keitaro_GG, although this person was never punished. Following the incident, an Infinity Nikki representative spoke to the press, describing the team's reaction as a mix of frustration and relief, explaining that while the hack was unsettling, no long-term harm was actually done.
Obviously a bit of a bump, but they're more focused on launching and making sure Nikki's birthday goes well than worrying about some bad actors ruining their big day.
Despite everything, the event went ahead as planned. However, the hack launch left behind a dark mark on what should have been a pure celebration. If the hacker was caught, he would have been in serious trouble, just like the game developers in this next case.
And have levied against them the highest fine in their history, the highest fine they've ever given a company, which was $9 million.
The Dark Secrets of
On June
Gaming Company.
16th, 2025,
Yeah,
the
this
Korean Fair
one.
Trade Commission, KFTC, suddenly announced new penalties on Krafton, the company behind PUBG Battlegrounds, the creators of Starseed, as Nia Trigger, punishing them for the lack of transparency surrounding their in-game purchases, which allowed them to take advantage of their audience. Both studios were ordered to pay 2.5 million won, which is only around $1,850 each, and to submit preventative action plans within 30 days. At first glance, the penalty seemed almost insignificant for companies of their size, but what the investigation actually uncovered painted a far darker picture of how these developers had been operating behind the scenes. This all began in March of 2023, when the South Korean government decided to revise the Game Industry Promotion Act, a law designed to bring transparency to probability-based items, or what most gamers would call gacha games. Under this law, developers are required to clearly disclose the actual odds of obtaining specific in-game rewards, but according to complaints filed by many users, certain game developers haven't been as transparent as the law requires. By March 2024, investigators found that Krafton had been misrepresenting the chances of receiving rare items. According to reports, one of the cases involved a collaboration event with the K-pop group NewJeans, in which Krafton promised players a guaranteed chance at owning a special cosmetic item, staying locked at just 9% no matter how many times the player actually rolled. Even more disturbing was the fact that some items that Krafton claimed had drop rates between 0.14% and 0.75% were later found to have no chances of appearing at all. But Krafton wasn't alone. Investigators discovered that Come To Us also had been falsely advertising the odds of its own rewards. The company claimed that the 3 items sold in one bundle each had a 24% chance of improving player stats, but in reality, only one of those items ever did. Following the KFTC ruling, both companies were forced to make things right, with Krafton having to refund over 1.1 billion won, which is about $870,000, to more than 380,000 players, in addition to 9.8 million won, both in in-game currency as compensation for the affected players. On the other hand, Come To Us distributed over 200,000 won worth of in-game currency to each of its 1.55 million users, regardless of whether they made purchases tied to the incident or not. But in the end, both of the fines and refunds, when stacked together, were mere drops in the ocean compared to the billions these companies hold in net worth. So both Krafton and Come To Us really walked away with a slap on the wrist, while this next company faced an issue much more disturbing.
What happened in Japan recently with Square Enix in their headquarters and this dude emailing them saying he's gonna kill them all?
In
The
August of
Gacha
2019,
terrorist?
Square Enix, the well-known company behind Final Fantasy, began receiving a series of disturbing mail from an anonymous individual. And while most of them
Do I
were
know
pretty
this guy?
vague, one particular email stood out as it contained a very disturbing threat.
Will I kill if you keep running away?
As a result of this email, and to ensure the safety of their staff and fans, Square Enix immediately cancelled 2 upcoming events. But even after that, the messages wouldn't stop coming. Only this time it wasn't another threat, it was an apology.
I was dissatisfied with price increases of items used in games. I wanted the company to understand the feelings of the users and realize that there's a sense of crisis within the company.
This message brought some relief to Square Enix and a sort of disclosure to the case. But that soon changed, because before the week was over, authorities had traced the emails to 25-year-old Japanese care worker named Yuto Kanda. And according to the police, Yuto had spent a large amount of money on one of Square Enix's gacha-style games. And when he reached
Of
out to
course.
customer support for help, he didn't get the answers he actually wanted. And so frustrated and angry, he decided to take it a step further by sending those threatening emails. Now Yuto would actually be arrested for those. But his story was far from unique, because just 2 months before his arrest, another 40-year-old man, Kenichi Hiratsuka, been
Oh my
taken
God,
into
he's
custody for
bald.
almost the exact same thing. Kenichi had reportedly
brother,
lost
lose the hair
17,000
already,
yen, or
it's
about
over.
$160
Let
on a
it
gacha
go.
and demanded a refund. But when he didn't get it, he sent a message to Square Enix threatening to repeat Kyoto Animation. For context, this was a direct reference to one of Japan's
The only thing I ever said specifically to a gacha game, I literally said, "Hey, can you take this character back? I don't want this character. Can you take it back?"
most horrific tragedies
That's
that
the only
occurred
thing
on
I
July
ever said or
18,
so in a-
2019,
in
and
a, like, in a
40-year-old
gacha
Shinji
thing or
Aoba
so
set
for a
fire to the
request.
offices at Kyoto Animation, claiming that the studio had plagiarized his novel. The attack took the lives of over 30 people and left many others seriously injured. Eventually, Shinji was arrested and given the capital punishment, so he was sentenced to death. And this would explain why neither Kenichi nor Yuto's threat was taken lightly by authorities. Fortunately, none of them acted on their threats, but not every story ends that way, because the next case would take things a little too far.
A thing that happened. It was like a full-on assassination attempt.
It all begins on April 22nd, 2021, when MiHoYo celebrated the 3rd anniversary of Honkai Impact 3rd, one of their earlier titles. To mark the occasion, they
Oh,
released a
is this
special
the one
anniversary
with the
event
rabbit
featuring new
thing?
bunny girl costumes and an animated music video
Yeah,
titled
it
Brilliant
is.
Light. In the video, the game's main heroines, known as Valkyries, performed a dance wearing kind of revealing outfits. To many global players, it was just harmless fun, but to others, particularly in China, it was seen as deeply disrespectful. One user would later post a tweet addressing the outrage, saying,
At the 3rd anniversary of GLB server, the Valkyries put on their exposed clothes and danced. Chinese players believe that such a plot is essentially an OOC, out of character, and a disrespect for Valkyries.
He would then go into detail highlighting
These
one
dumbasses,
character in
I
particular.
swear.
By the way, Fu Hua, like Zhong Li, is a symbol of China's 5,000 years civilization. And when Chinese players see Fu Hua dancing on the stage in exposed clothes, they will be very sad because they think it will be disrespectful for China. It's lamentable, isn't it?
And after hours of receiving non-stop backlash, MiHoYo would respond with an apology and promise to remove every content related to the bunny girls. However, this decision would also end up creating even more division within the community. While some players supported their removal, others accused the company
Let me see. Out of character, they're pixels. MiHoYo, stop letting your players bully you. This is just like the Genshin drama last time. Jesus, looks like people are offended by freaking fictional characters. Thanks for crystals, MiHoYo. But seriously, what? The content is the best. I love bunny girls. Blah 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 blah. I
of
remember
caving
this.
into the outrage. Comments would start flooding in immediately, with one player tweeting,
Thanks for the crystals, MiHoYo, but seriously, what? The content is the best. I love bunny girls. It's beautiful, and I can't just understand how someone can possibly find this offensive. That's why we can't have nice things, because of some people.
Another fan would also express
Yeah.
their displeasure, saying,
Yeah.
Out of character, they're
It is-
pixels.
it is
MiHoYo,
pretty
stop letting
stupid,
your
I'm not
players
gonna
bully
lie.
you. This is just like the Genshin drama last time.
But on April 24th, 2021, things escalated to a new level. That day was supposed to be just another day of work for most employees at MiHoYo, still the developers of Genshin Impact. But before the day would end, their usual routine would be disrupted by an armed intruder. According to reports, an unidentified man, who we'll refer to as Lin, quietly entered MiHoYo's headquarters, armed with a knife with the intention of taking out the company's founders. Now luckily, before he could actually harm anyone, the security officers at the building managed to subdue him, after which the police that arrived to take him into custody.
That's
Now,
crazy.
the authorities immediately launched an investigation to determine the motive behind the attack, and what they uncovered was extremely unsettling. Apparently, the reason Lin was so upset was because MiHoYo made that recent change to the game. Some believe he was furious about the bunny girl content itself, while others think he was enraged over its removal, viewing it as a betrayal of the players. Another user also speculated that Lin was just another Chinese player who may have been triggered by the fact that the Brilliant Bright video wasn't broadcast in mainland China at all, due to its revealing nature. But as unsettling as this story was, the next case was so chaotic that the internet itself needed a break.
I'm quitting. I lost
Oh my god, it's
absolutely
the
everything.
Atsu one.
My
Oh,
marriage, my career,
Lord.
my livelihood, my will to live.
I remember
On June 8th,
this
2024,
one.
Asian guy stream better known as Atsu, who's a Genshin Impact YouTuber, would post a tweet saying,
I'm quitting. I lost absolutely everything. My marriage, my career, my livelihood, my will to live. Keeping these secrets to protect others has felt so lonely. I don't want to live like this anymore. This document is for my closure. I want to move on.
And attached to the tweet was a
Hashtag
34-page long
right.
document where Atsu would go into great detail about how his life took a tragic turn behind the scenes. And within minutes, this tweet
Good
exploded across
times,
social
good
media, gaining millions of
times.
impressions and thousands of retweets, with countless creators rallying behind it. But while many of Atsu's fans and friends seemed to understand what he was going through, most people didn't really know how deep the story actually went. And it all started with the launch of Genshin Impact itself back in September of 2020. The game was brand new and booming with attention, and to keep that momentum going, countless creators began producing content about the game. Reviews, guides, and gameplay streams meant to boost its reach. But as Genshin Impact's popularity grew, so did the tension in its newly established community, and soon small conflicts would start bubbling beneath the surface. One of the earliest dramas would involve Texo and Enviosity, who were both prominent figures in the Genshin community.
Wait, that's what Enviosity looks like? No shot, dude. No shot that is what Enviosity looks like. No fucking way, dude. I've never seen his face ever, dude. What the fuck? I did not knew about that. What in the fuck? I was kind of expecting a bit more different, to be honest. I don't know why. I was expecting a little more different. Wow. That's crazy. That is the first time I've seen a face reveal for Enviosity. Wow, dude. Huh. Interesting. Well, I can tell immediately between these two pictures who's more unstable compared to the other one, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. I can definitely see who is unstable and who is not unstable very easily just by these two pictures here. Damn, that's crazy. So that's how he looks like, huh? That's how he fucking looks like. Interesting, huh? Wow. Okay, all right.
After Tectone mocked free-to-play players, claiming that all they ever did in the game was pick mints.
No, Envy's not free to play, okay? That dude plays this game every day for like 14 hours. At that point, you're not free to play. Don't believe me that Enviosity is the one true mint picker. Well, why don't we go look at his YouTube channel? Mint, mint, mint.
For context, in Genshin Impact, people can collect a variety of items scattered across the world, but mints are basically everywhere, very common and nearly useless. So when Tectone compared free-to-play players to mint pickers, it came off as a demeaning joke, aimed at those who either couldn't or didn't want to spend money on the game. And this started a minor feud that would eventually fizzle out after some back and forth, bringing a temporary calm to the gacha community. But that peace and quiet wouldn't last too long. As content slowed and creators ran out of excitement, boredom began to set in within the community, with some creators even claiming that the Genshin scene was dying altogether. And then MiHoYo made a move that would reignite the community and ironically sparked one of the most chaotic controversies in gacha history. On January 5th, 2022, MiHoYo introduced two new Genshin Impact characters, Yoonjin and Shenhe, both of which were visually stunning. And Yoonjin would come with a twist, a very rare ability to sing not just any song, but a traditional Chinese opera. This feature instantly divided the community, because while many praised the cultural depth of Yoonjin's performance, one streamer's reaction would draw a lot of attention for all the wrong reasons.
Wait for it.
It sounds like she's calling an ambulance when chat's ears are already bleeding.
This clip soon spread like wildfire, with many accusing Tectone of being disrespectful and racist towards Chinese culture. And his name also traveled far into Chinese media, where Yoonjin's performance was seen as a symbol of national pride. On January 7th, 2022, Atsu began posting a series of subtweets that referenced someone negatively, without mentioning names.
There's a lot of creators that come across as genuine nice people on stream/video, but are actually like parasites behind the scenes. If you don't bend to their will, they'll make a big deal out of it publicly, or drag your name through the mud, behind your back to other creators.
Shortly after that, he would follow up with another tweet saying,
"There are many creators in the Genshin circle and wider connected circles I'd like to befriend or get to know better, but they're already in so deep with many people who are awful people off stream, and it makes me skeptical if they're just naive or also awful behind the scenes."
Because Atsu was one of the community's most respected creators, these tweets set off a firestorm, as everyone tried to figure out who he was actually referring to. Goose Egg, another Genshin Impact streamer who was also Tectone's roommate, would later respond to Atsu, asking him to clarify who he was talking about, before dropping a video titled, "These types of people are ruining Genshin Impact." In the first 3 minutes of the video, Goose would accuse Atsu of being immature for subtweeting, before shifting the focus focused to the fact that both he and Tectone had been unfairly labeled as racist for disliking Yoonjin's opera. And right after this video was published, Tectone also clapped back almost immediately, going live to leak private DMs between him and Atsu, escalating the drama even further. In response, Atsu released a video titled Goose Egg and Tectone Drama, accusing Goose of hypocrisy, showing several examples of subtweets Tectone had also done in the past, and revealing that he and Tectone had previously made a private agreement not to talk about each other publicly, an agreement that Tectone had now broken.
I said if Tectone wants to show the DMs, he can. Goose did not relay that information to Tectone. Tectone came back and asked, is Atsu going to threaten to leak DMs? Because I have them as well, and Goose is like, yes.
Atsu also denied Tectone's claims that he was spreading false rumors about him, but also admitted that much of the conversation had taken place over private calls, which means he had little to no proof to support his claims. Atsu then read through several of their leaked DMs, line by line, analyzing every exchange between them, including mentions of other creators.
Yo Techie, are you gonna talk about the gaslighting topic on stream today? I'm getting several people demanding I address it via Discord/Twitter/IG DMs, and it's not something I can just ignore, but it's something I wanted to ask you about first. Yes, I'm going to briefly touch on it in today's stream. Did you want the full context of the clip before you address it, or are you going to reference me on stream again? If you have the full context, it would be good. Here's the full context. Are you attempting to lecture me? To a degree, yeah, so did other content creators. Do you know what other content creators did? Say, hey man, don't get why you get all this hate. Hope you're alright. Stay strong. Yeah, that's called being a yes man. As I said, I don't think you're 100% in the right. Would you like to know the content creators you just called yes men?
At this time, Atsu didn't reveal the names of these content creators because he claimed he was trying to protect them. On the contrary though, Tectone would blatantly name every person involved during his stream. Unfortunately, the VOD is no longer available. However, the creators in question were later identified as Tuanto, Dish, and X-Slice, who are all Atsu's very close friends. In an unexpected turn of events, Tectone would also release a response video titled No More Drama.
You know, the funny thing about it, after kind of like, so after like the most recent thing, right? So if we look at this, right? I am subscribed to Dish, right? Because like I did enjoy her content. I was enjoying her content back then or so, right? And then if we go on to Twitch Tracker real quick, at least from like what I've seen specifically, here she is. She still does pretty well, but she definitely is not in her peak or so. Yeah, so here's the Genshin here. And then boom. From 2.2 to 1.6 and 1.5 and then 1.4, 1.1, less than 1,000, 1.4, back down to 900, 1.2, 700, 1.1, 900, 1.1. Oh my god, oh, she's still losing followers too as well. I just noticed that. I wasn't even paying attention to that. 700, and then look, it just keeps going down and down and down and down. 266, 510 here. 224, 3, 2, 100, 162, and now we're at 180. It's crazy. So she averages about 181, and she used to be a pretty prominent, big, you know, Genshin person or so. But ever since when that happened or so, damn, dude, she loses 5.6 followers per hour. Peak viewers went down. She lost about 108 followers. Damn, dude. That's crazy. Damn, dude. That's so wild to see that.
To the many allegations and apologizing for mocking free-to-play players and laughing at Yoonjin's opera. He then ended it with an open offer, saying he was willing to apologize to anyone who felt they deserved one. In the comment section, Tuanto, Dish, and X-Slice would praise his willingness to apologize. And for a while, it seemed like the community could finally move on. But it didn't take long for chaos to erupt again. About a year later, in January of 2024, Genshin Impact announced this yearly update, introducing new fascinating features. Many of the Genshin creators were excited about what was coming, and they would even post reaction videos expressing their thoughts on the update. However, one tweet would soon emerge that derailed derailed the conversation into a new direction. This tweet was made by another Genshin streamer named Zyox, who
This fucking troll, bro. This is the guy that started it. This little rat boy was the one who started the entire shit show. He set the place on fire and walked away from it. I fucking remember this too as well because I made the video on that.
posted two contrasting clips side by side with the caption, "The Duality of Man." The first showed Doro44 reacting positively to the update, while the second one showed Tectone frustrated and negative, proving that the community was still divided. Not surprisingly, most fans would end up taking Doro's side, putting Tectone's on blast for his constant criticism, and in response to Tectone's reaction, Genshin Impact creator Fobmaster stepped into the chaos, calling out Tectone for putting people's livelihoods at risk. Initially, it seemed like another small disagreement, until Atsu joined in again by quoting a completely irrelevant tweet that read,
"Having a guy you don't like obsessed with you. Top 10 most horrible experiences in life."
And what came next was a long post directed at Tectone.
I said this already on stream, but to reiterate here, I thought it was unfair how Tectone and Doro, amongst others, got absolutely blasted by Twitter following Zionic's tweet. It was unprovoked, and I think it's bad if we act like people can't have their opinions, whether overly positive or overly negative, especially when they're not enforcing it on you. Having said that, the way Tectone has reacted to this, by diverging the conversation, name dropping, throwing shots and spreading misinformation about content creators, including myself, and parts of the community he's bitter towards, just comes across as extremely insecure. I think it's clear to most that he's just milking content and viewership while parading himself to be some sort of noble advocate for change. This is the narrative he wants, and naturally his fans are going to eat it up. There's really not much you can do about it. It would be amazing if he could take his own attitude of assuming the worst of others and apply it to himself, because from the looks of it, he loathes this game and community, and he always looks miserable when referencing Genshin. So why do we find him repeatedly inserting himself in Genshin related things?
Atsu then decided to bring up his initial fallout with Tectone, saying,
"Many of you know he and I had a very public falling out because he didn't like what I had to say to him about walking towards self-destruction by repeatedly getting involved with drama and surrounding himself with yes men. For him, he thought this comment about self-destruction was about clout. I remember him dragging about getting into OTK as a rebuttal to my statement, but it was more so about his emotional and mental well-being, because every drama would just make him and others so miserable."
While this lengthy post sounded like a declaration of war, the last part would actually change the whole topic.
P.S. If you're reading this Tectone and your source for some of these claims you're making happens to be a guide maker that bears a personal grudge against me, please be aware. Maybe it's not who I think it is, but I'm certain you know who I'm referring to. My Discord DMs are still open if you ever wish for a private discussion.
While everyone wondered who this mystery guy was, 2 days later, Braxophone, a well-known guide maker, would reveal himself with a tweet saying,
"About Atsu, please tell me what I did or move on."
And attached to the tweet was a now deleted 13-page Google Doc where Braxophone accused Atsu of spreading rumors and inciting hatred against him. He also mentioned Atsu didn't speak to him about the issue, but instead chose to post it on Twitter. The document detailed Braxophone and Atsu's first meeting at Anime New York in 2021, a friendly encounter that would later spiral into silence and avoidance. According to Brax, when he met Atsu, they took a friendly picture together, but by the next year something changed. Atsu began avoiding him. Even at that, Brax would later talk to Atsu, warning him about a certain voice actor who he'd heard was behaving inappropriate towards women, and later during another Anime Expo party, Atsu allegedly avoided him again, and when it came to a group photo, Brax joined in, but once he left, Atsu reportedly called everyone back to take another picture without him. When Brax posted the original picture online, he was flooded with angry DMs, asking him to delete it because one of the creators actually didn't want her identity revealed. Confused by all of that, Brax then finally reached out to Atsu directly in a text, and the exchange that followed was rather unsettling.
"I wanted to ask you though, is there something I did but I've really sort of felt like you might be avoiding interacting with? And if that's the case, I just want to know if there's something I did that you didn't like. Again, I don't really think everyone needs to be friends. I would like to at least not be on bad terms with people. Hey Brax, I don't consider to be on bad terms with you, but I do keep you at arm's length simply because I don't really know you that well, and I found it a bit uncomfortable how eager you came across in trying to befriend me. It almost felt forceful post New York and even post LA. Certain tweets and actions I saw over time continue to reaffirm to me that it was probably indeed in my best interest to keep you at arm's length. Well, I would like to elaborate more. I can't say in good faith that I trust you to respect certain degrees of privacy or to keep things truly confidential. I don't think you're a bad person. I also don't think I can really vibe with you on a friend. Thanks for the honesty."
Brax would also discover that he'd been blacklisted from Hoyoverse events, while everyone else in his circle received invites. And when he tried to clear the air again, Atsu had already blocked him everywhere. He then concluded his document with one final message.
"I would have never said a word about it again if Atsu hadn't brought it up again. I genuinely can't believe he thinks I'm that evil. Scheming to destroy the Genshin community and its creators via Tectone. Absolute insanity. You've already destroyed my mental health and relationships with plenty of people. I haven't talked about this with anyone in months. Leave me."
Dish, one of Atsu's closest friends, would then come forward saying,
"I cannot speak to all the claims in this doc, and I'm processing it all, but I will tell you I was very confused by Atsu's distrust for you, and said so in the car after the Anime Expo party, where we all met, and unfortunately this is where my investment stopped. I heard passing comments about you here and there, but never bothered to ask questions or make up my own mind about the issue. I need to apologize to you, and take accountability for not paying more mind to the growing divide between Atsu and our friend circle, and you."
And this tweet alone turned the tide of the whole situation. For the first time since the drama started, people began to see Atsu not as a victim, but as that's the one behind all of the chaos. And Atsu would soon fire back with a lengthy post of his own, claiming Brax had always been obsessed with him, and that his warnings about the predatory voice actor were what originally made him distrustful. He would also accuse Brax of intentionally posting a video that revealed a private creator's identity, claiming that Brax didn't post it by mistake. He backed this accusation up with a screenshot of Brax's apology to the creator, where he said,
"It's down, I'm so sorry. The good news is I don't think a lot of my audience aligns with you and Toronto, so things are probably safe. But yeah, I didn't know. Sorry. I hope everything is still under control."
But Atsu wasn't convinced by this. He would then reference a tweet longer from Brax.
It's the one that he didn't know that the VTuber didn't want her face being shown, so it's just him apologizing, saying, "Oh, my bad, I did not know about that, you know, don't worry, not a lot of, hopefully not a lot of people has saw it," and all this other stuff, so.
Where he said,
"I'm not going to drop any names in relation to this, because I don't want to implicate them or share their stories before they're ready to come out themselves. And one of the parties, a specific creator that he may or may not want to protect, caused a lot of trouble for both Atsu and some of the girls at the party. Everyone is being told to shut up about it and not talk about all that happened. Maybe that's what Atsu meant when he said I couldn't keep things confidential, that I didn't keep secrets about harassment, peer pressure, and more."
And this would convince Atsu that Brax had been manipulating Tectone against him. Now, a few months later, Atsu would release yet another document to clear his name. In it, he claimed he'd reached out both to Goose Egg and Braxophone to reconcile, and that he even showed Goose the section that talked about him before posting. Soon afterwards, Brax released what he called his final statement, confirming that he and Atsu finally squashed their beef. And once again, it seemed like everyone was able to move on, except for Atsu, who came up with another post, saying,
"A lot of stuff has been taken out of context, not by Brax, but by Twitter and other creators in the name of content, which is just making things more difficult for both myself and Brax. Some things aren't even attributable to me in his document, but I can understand why he originally thought they were. I appreciate that he deleted the original tweet, now that many things have become clearer to the both of us. I know people are still gonna send me abuse, call me a manipulator, or say I manipulated Brax/Goose, but I've already lost friends over this drama and don't wish to burn any more bridges. I'm sad that many people who I thought were friends or I was on good terms with have judged my character without hearing my side in full, but it is what it is. Thank you to those who have waited extremely patiently for my side and stuck by me. To the friends that checked in on me, thank you. You don't understand how much that meant to me during such a public execution. My initial response wasn't enough. It was emotionally charged and also didn't have any receipts, and I owe everyone an apology for that."
The post ended with a shout out to his wife, thanking her for being his rock through it all. But Atsu still wasn't done. In June of 2024, he would post his infamous retirement tweet, along with another long document. Inside the document, Atsu revealed that he attempted to leave this earth twice, that his wife had been unfaithful, leading to his divorce, and that his closest friends, the very people he'd protected, had betrayed him. Online, the post was quickly reduced to a cruel summary.
TLDR, Nekopi cheated, Braxophone lied, Tectone is a horrible person, bro, never trust these Genshin creators, man. They're all bad.
The next day, Goose Egg lashed out, saying,
"We ended this casually and respectfully. I never brought your name up ever again on my stream, unless it was in good light, and said I hope you recover and do well, and that I genuinely am glad we could squash all our beef. Now I'm getting called two-faced, and we're double backing on all what we apparently handled together, and you thought I seriously matured. If you're going to spread misinformation on the internet again, after everything you did to me in the past, and completely destroyed my streaming, mental, and career to this day, and I still can't feel right streaming after all that happened to me. Please leave me alone."
Then Braxophone followed up with a statement saying,
"Please stop lying about me. All this goes against what we spoke about on 101. I feel gaslit and betrayed. I'm sorry what happened to you, but I am not to blame."
Both Atsu and Brax would engage in more back and forth. But at this stage, the community had reached its breaking point. People simply begged them to make the fight private and end it once and for all. And finally, Atsu agreed with a tweet saying,
"You're right, it's time to lock off. I've said my piece, and it's time to move on to healthier environments. Bridges have been burned, and it is what it is. I am deeply saddened and indeed in an emotional state. I'm sorry it dragged on for so long."
And while this was an insanely intense drama, what comes next is nothing short of harrowing.
When people saw who the English voice was, Chris Neosi.
The voice actor
on June 18, 2024, Honkai Star Rail dropped a bombshell that would send the whole gacha community into a frenzy, introducing brand new characters packed with exciting features and abilities. But of all the characters released on this day, the one known as Mose would be the start of one of the most disturbing cases ever seen in the community. While Mose stood out for its unique design, the fans also focused on it being a 4-star character instead of a 5-star. This is because Mose's role and kit looks too good for a 4-star, and this wave of excitement would continue to rise until a user dropped a comment that would turn the hype train into a different direction.
"Please Google Chris Neosi. I'm shocked that he was given the role considering everything."
Right on the reveal post is the name Chris Neosi, and a quick Google search paints him as an American A-list voice actor, known for various works that earned him a cult following among younger audiences. But scroll just a little further and the tone shifts. A Tumblr post appears titled,
"It's time that I apologize for all the people I've hurt."
An apology post written by Chris. However, the story doesn't stop there. On July 14th, 2019, a post appears on Tumblr titled,
"Chris Kirpover Neosi is an emotionally violent, terrible person."
And as disturbing as this title sounds, the content of the post is even darker.
Chris Niosi is violent and people need to know the truth about him. My name is Amy and I am hopefully his last ex-girlfriend. I dated him from September 2017 to April 2019 and it was a miserable experience to say the least. I try to be an open-minded person with an even more open heart, but that was a waste of effort because this man is a piece of bad thing and it is entirely his choice to be one.
Amy would then list the horrible things Chris did to her while they were dating, which includes blowing up at the smallest things, not taking responsibility for his bad behaviors, and absolute disrespect for Amy's bodily autonomy. Although we're not going to do a deep dive into the post, there are certain things in Amy's post worth mentioning, including the part where she says,
I asked him to set boundaries with his ex and he battled me so much that I asked him to cut contact completely. He fought tooth and nail to keep talking to her despite how much this bad deed was damaging, and he even called me the unreasonable one. She contacted him one day out of the blue and he came to my office to take me out to lunch, only to keep me hostage in front of my office building that I must give him the blessing to respond to her. He refused to take no as an answer and was shouting at me. I felt forced to say yes, even though I truly did not want to, or else he would continue making a scene in front of my workplace.
One other point that would be relevant to the story is the 9th point on the post that reads,
first of all, Chris Niosi was planning to intimately take advantage of me. When I was very intoxicated on my birthday last year, he even tried to tell a friend that he implied permission from me when confronted about it, which is absolutely not true. That only gave me confirmation he knew exactly what he was doing. Thankfully, I was aware enough at the time to tell him to back off, but it disturbs me to this day. He saw me being drunk on my birthday as an opportunity.
According to the lengthy post, after Amy broke up with Chris, he kept contacting her and would become even more toxic before eventually asking her to be his friends with benefits. And with these types of accusations, it wouldn't take long for the post to go viral. And one of the parts that got a lot of attention was where Amy implied that a lot of people have made similar accusations about Chris. And just a few scrolls downwards, a similar post from August 2016 would appear, titled Publicly Acknowledging Your Wrongdoings, the Corbofa 2016 edition, written by a user named Kalen Crow. Kalen Crow started his post with background information of how he met Chris back in 2004 and how he's been a horrible person since then. However, midway into the post, he says,
if I chime in, I hope it makes a lick of difference, but there's a reason that the saying, don't meet your heroes, exists. What you see of Chris Niosi online is the tip of the iceberg that he wants you to see. You're only privy to the 1% that Niosi has full control of. You will never meet someone more self-absorbed and selfish as Chris Niosi.
In this extensive expose, Kalen Crow detailed how he witnessed Chris being violent to so many people and how he would hurt everyone around him. And in a shocking revelation, he then mentioned how he'd actually called Chris out in 2014, but 2 years later, Chris was still keeping his head high and he never responded to the allegations. Now at the time, it wasn't clear if Chris saw the call-out post from 2014 and 2016, but Amy's post in 2019 gained so much unexpected traction that Chris decided to come forward, giving his side of the story.
My name is Christopher Niosi, also known as Kerbuffer. I'm 30 years old, and for about half of my lifetime, I've horribly mistreated and abused friends, colleagues, and even my significant others. It is time that I addressed each and every one of these people and responded to their feelings with individual apologies for what I've done to hurt them. This contains a master post containing all of the appropriate posts in one location, so that the people they've been written for, along with anyone else who wishes to read them, can easily access the information.
His post made it clear that he was indeed called out in 2014, as he claims it made him want to leave the year, but according to him, Amy's post made things even worse, pushing him deeper into depression. Admittedly, Chris didn't respond the first time he got exposed, but now he believes writing an apology is a sign that he was getting better. In his response, Chris added links to apologies he made for the individuals he'd hurt and labels them with their names and relationships to him in the past, including former girlfriends, former employees, former colleagues, former friends, and former fans. He would then end the apology with a personal note to his victims, saying,
to all of those who these are meant for, I hope you will see them and read them. I have no expectation of what each of your individual feelings will be, but know that I tried to be as thorough as I possibly could, to take responsibility for all the things I know for certain I'd done to hurt each of you. I went through as much of your words for as many accounts I could find, and refreshed myself on, as well as recounting my own memories, to address as many problems relating to each of you personally as I could. I understand that in addition to probably not accepting these apologies or forgiving me for any of my actions, that these might not be good enough in terms of how much I cover, the general detail of everything, my level of sincerity, and much more. I will not make excuses for if they are not to your satisfaction.
Now Chris would actually end up deleting all of his apology posts, but thanks to the Wayback Machine, everyone invested still got a chance to read each of them. However, for the sake of context, we'll only take a look at the apology post Chris wrote to Amy.
Amy, I failed you. No amount of apology I could ever give will ever make up for that. You were justified to leave me, and you were actually equally justified to cut ties with me. I was a terrible partner, and I made you feel awful. Thus, the absolute least I can do is to take full responsibility for my actions and respond to your feelings openly. I failed in treating you with real respect. You should not have to put up with my childish temper, day in and day out, and it's even worse that it made you fearful. It was never my intention to manipulate you, but that's no excuse. It was my fault you were ever made to feel this way. I should have taken more responsibility for my toxic behavior and changed. You did not at any point ever deserve to be treated that way, because none of it was your fault.
He then also addressed the birthday party incident, saying,
regarding what happened on your birthday, I never once believed I had any form of implied permission to do anything like that to you. Somehow this wasn't communicated properly, and I deeply apologize for that. I swear to you, I never thought that. I never had any intention of doing such a thing. Even that aside, while I know I've done a lot of horrible things, especially to you, I also know that I did not and would never, ever in my life try to intimately take advantage of anyone. But the fact that the takeaway from what I hoped was going to be a really special day for you is something as heinous as that, I have no words. I'm so sorry that I somehow gave you the impression that I had such intentions, and I'm sorry that I made you feel that way.
On the surface, it sounded like Chris owned up to his actions, but after Amy read his post, she responded with,
I read your post. I read it at least 5 times in fact, and I'm not impressed. This is an apology for being a bad boyfriend, not a violent boyfriend. Did you even notice that the words violent or violence don't even come up in your post? Of course you did. You're trying to pass this off as you being subpar at relationships, and not the fact that you were emotionally violent to me. You're dismissing the one thing people are concerned about. Claiming that what happened on my birthday was miscommunication is a weak excuse. Very, very weak. If you really want to go there, I will remind you that on June 11th, 2018, after Sony's E3 conference, I was drunk and you wanted to have intimacy. We attempted, and I decided that drunk intimacy wasn't for me, and said that I didn't wish to try that again. That was the rule we established. Drunk intimacy is off the table. And yet on my birthday, later that year, you saw how intoxicated I was, and thought you could try it anyway. Miscommunication? No, I don't think so. Not to mention you completely glossed over the part about how you kept me hostage in your car in front of my office building. Out of everything, that was honestly the most horrifying thing you did to me. You forced me to do something I didn't want to do. I was too afraid to leave the car and go back to work because I thought you would follow me out and scream at me the whole way for all my co-workers to see. You took advantage of me in a place that I had but no choice to give you what you wanted. Do you understand how wrong that is? Why didn't you talk about this in your apology?
On the same day, Chris tried to redeem himself by responding with another post.
Even in my wanting to set things right, I failed you yet again. I'm sorry. I will be more explicit. You're right. This is not merely about being a bad partner. Regardless of my intentions, my reasoning, my explanations, it does not change the fact that I was emotionally violent to you and left lasting damage on you. It haunts me that I did this to you. I deeply apologize for not illustrating what I meant about your point regarding what I did during your birthday. Once again, I broke a boundary that you clearly set, and I should have been aware of beyond a shadow of a doubt. I am mortified that I not only forgot the details of what happened, but that I ignorantly chose not to remember an important rule you'd asked of me and made you incredibly uncomfortable and continued to destroy our trust. I'm disgusted with myself over this particular point more than anything else, and I know that my apology I've presented so far has not been good enough. But if you believe nothing else, please believe me when I say, for all of the boundaries I disrespected, ignored, and stomped on, I had no intentions of ever forcing myself onto you, with or without any sort of implied permission.
He then continued saying how he felt bad about how he unintentionally manipulated Amy, while bringing up the fact again that he's been thinking about leaving this earth and seeing a therapist, to which Amy would then reply,
okay, I accept your apology, but I don't forgive you. That well is dried up, as you know. This is what you should have said from the start. Regardless, thank you for saying it. I still don't agree with you on every point you made, that your wrongful actions were unintentional. My mind won't be changed on that, but I'm not going to drill into it anymore. I've said what I needed to say, and I hope this will spark the change you desperately need. Treat other people right, you owe that to your fans, your friends, and yourself. Do better and be better. Godspeed.
And although Amy accepted Chris' apology, the internet didn't seem to move on for a year, forcing Chris to make a post on Twitter in November of 2020 talking about his healing process, and also trying to clear up things he believed were misunderstood.
I need to finally set the record straight about some very serious issues. I allowed the internet to distort the truth, which not only resulted in personal suffering, but created suffering for others related to the situation by extension. The narrative has been shifted into a slew of false accusations, and I feel this needs to be corrected. So I'm going to be as explicit as possible here. I've never forced myself on anyone. I've never beaten anyone. I've never stolen money or jobs from someone else. For all the mistakes I've made, I am not a criminal, period. Because of these falsehoods that have been mixed with the facts for well over an entire year, I've endured continual harassment, ridicule, death threats, and even more demanding, I leave this earth. It hasn't stopped. I'm continuing to do everything I can to make things right. So I ask that all of you who see this, please allow me and everyone else to collectively move on with our lives.
After this post, some voice actors including Zeno, who voices Zethos, showed their support with tweets attesting to the fact that Chris had indeed been working on himself. And with that, the dust settled for a while. Until 2024, when a tweet mentioned earlier surfaced on the internet again. While Chris was facing backlash in 2024, Griffin Puatu, who's the voice actor for Sunday, another character in Honkai Star Rail, would tweet in support of Chris saying,
I wanted to make a post regarding the Chris Nyosi situation. The reason why? Many of us had front row seats to everything that happened and know that Chris has apologized, changed, and grown. We are happy he's working again and gets to pursue a living for himself in an industry that he loves dearly. My hope in voicing support for Chris is to broaden the discussion and provide another side to the story. Right now, Twitter/X is drowning in negativity, with death threats and calls for his firing running rampant. This type of toxic discourse is why I left the platform back in 2023. I no longer post there. I keep an account to respond to casting calls and auditions for my job, but I refuse to add fuel to the heaping trash fire that it is. I know posting this puts me at risk of the same sort of vitriol that Chris is facing right now. I would rather stand up for my colleague than remain silent.
Now this post actually only worsened Chris' situation, attracting even more negative attention across different social medias. And so on July 22nd, 2024, Chris eventually tendered his resignation from his role. But while it seemed like the most disturbing case in the gacha community has just been concluded, what comes next is even more brutal.
A Genshin Impact English voice actor accused of misconduct.
I remember this one. The
On
end of
February
a
7,
career.
2023, a Twitter user known as Fredcore would post a series of tweets accompanied by a Google Doc detailing some disturbing allegations against Elliot Gindi, the English voice actor behind the Genshin Impact character named Tainari. This post would send shockwaves throughout the Genshin Impact community, but before anyone could actually dismiss the allegations as another internet troll, Fredcore would follow up with a tweet that silenced much of that doubt.
By the way, I'm not just some rando. I was one of Elliot's main Twitch and Discord moderators. That's how I got all of this information.
For context, Elliot Gindi is an American spoken English voiceover artist known for iconic roles, like Billy and Team Yell in Pokemon Journey, the series. But again, his major breakthrough would come from voicing Tainari on Genshin Impact. And ironically, while the role pushed him to an even bigger audience, it would be responsible for his downfall as well. Within hours after Fredco's post went up, the community would erupt in complete chaos. But then Google would suddenly remove the document for violating the terms of service. However, Fredco wasn't done. Shortly after confirming that the document had been taken offline, a new link would surface, this time containing a series of shocking private conversations between Elliot Gindi and multiple individuals. And what those messages revealed would change everything. The first case in Elliot's expose centers on an individual known as Toki, a younger person who identifies as an ace at the time they met Elliot, which is somebody who experiences little or no attraction to others. Toki had joined Elliot's server as an ordinary fan, but that quickly changed after Elliot learned about Toki's struggles with mental health. Soon their interactions would go from professional to personal, and then disturbingly intimate. Elliot would move their conversations to WhatsApp, where he asked Toki to record himself getting intimate with a girl. Now Toki would decline that, but despite this very weird request, their friendship would somehow keep growing stronger, with Toki opening up to Elliot about the time he was taken advantage of while he was much younger. But instead of sympathizing with Toki, Elliot would try to exploit him as well.
He told me he had his eye on me from the first day and was just waiting until I was closer to 18. He would even ask me things like if I had fantasies of being exploited, or if I would let him have his way with me in my sleep, all while knowing that I'd been a victim of that just a year prior.
And all of this was happening while Toki wasn't an adult yet. And even though he told Elliot about his age and the fact that he wasn't interested in any form of intimacy, Elliot still consistently manipulated him into believing he was crazy, using his PPD diagnosis against him. Over time, Toki would grow uncomfortable and slowly drift away from Elliot, but shortly afterwards, Toki would then fall into a mental health spiral, giving Elliot the opportunity to infiltrate his life once again. But it wouldn't take long before Toki would find out that he wasn't the only victim, and it was this realization that motivated him to open up to one of Elliot's moderators. Unfortunately, Elliot successfully manipulated Toki into deleting his messages, so by the time it would come out to expose Elliot, there wasn't enough evidence to back up his claim. But the next story about him was different. It came with so much evidence that even Elliot fans were forced to agree that he was guilty. This victim was a young fan named Kazuya, who claimed to have been obsessed with both the character Tainari and the voice actor behind the character.
I was following the English voice actor for a while, but I didn't exactly reach out to him. I would watch his streams, etc. One day I wanted to share my Tainari art with him and send him on the Instagram DMs. We talked normally for a while, and then he turned the vanish mode on to ask me for my explicit pictures. It went for a while, and he kept asking for more and more stuff. Videos, voices, and very disgusting requests. He would also ask me to do it with my girlfriends and share the footage with him. I did whatever he asked because I was heavily associating him with the character I was so obsessed with, and made me feel like I was getting closer to him.
In the screenshot Kazuya shared, Elliot wrote,
"Good girl. I don't mind if you get with girls as long as they're cute and hot and share. I want to be enough for you though. You are, baby. I'm just saying, I don't mind you getting girls. It's hot."
The next screenshot shows Elliot discussing his meetings with Kazuya, saying,
"I'm going to be really intimate with you when we meet. Hope you come to the US soon. If you come to the US, get yourself tested first, so I don't have to use protection."
In another screenshot, Kazuya would notice that Elliot had saved some of the messages she sent to him. But when Kazuya asked why, Elliot just apologized, promising it would never happen again. And this seemed to be the end of Kazuya's story. But the next victim came with a truckload of more screenshots that were even more disturbing. And it's the conversation between Elliot and another younger person named Faru, who also went by Doe or Basil. In the first screenshot, Elliot can be seen telling Faru he couldn't wait to get his hands on her, before asking her to do stuff to herself until she was done. Faru refused, citing her age, and Elliot started apologizing profusely. But it wouldn't take long for him to resume the same kind of explicit conversation, despite now being aware that Faru was
got
only
a receding hairline,
and
that's
from
what I
there,
gotta say,
things
so
would
it's
only
already
get worse.
immediately sus.
When's your birthday? On June 9th, haha, 6-9. Yours? January 29th. Oh, no wonder you're so pretty. Oh my god, thank you. What if I gave you a 6-9 birthday gift on your 6-9 birthday? Cake made from substance included.
The conversation took an even darker turn after Faru confided in Elliot about someone who was being inappropriate with her. At first, Elliot would show sympathy, saying,
"I'm worried about you. You should report him. There are anonymous resources online. I think I'll check. Where exactly did he touch you? That's vile. How did it feel?"
But the next minute, his concern twisted into something horrifying as he began using the same trauma as an opportunity to exploit Faru.
"Let me come and do stuff to you. You're into that, right? Since you let your mom's friend do stuff to you."
Shocked and horrified, Faru would reply saying,
"Elliot, no, that's not okay. We can call again and watch stuff if you want. I'll make more fan art."
But the cycle didn't stop there. Elliot would end up repeating the same pattern with other victims too, manipulating, gaslighting, and preying on them. One of them was Vani, formerly known as Maya, another fan who also texted Elliot when he was very young. The two would pretty much talk to each other every day until Maya got busy with her studies, and that was when all hell broke loose.
"Hello, hi, how's it going? Could have been better. Oh, how come? We just don't talk as much anymore. It's making me sad. Oh well, you know, we do have very different time zones and have school to attend to, but I promise to try to talk to you more. What kind of excuse is that? Excuse me? I mean, I'm important to you, aren't I? So you should make time for me no matter what. But I told you I can't talk much because of school? I don't care about your schoolwork. If I'm actually important to you and you're a real fan, you would make time for me, even if it means to skip one of your classes. Got it? Well, if I'm not that important to you, then I guess I should just game end myself." "What? No, please don't. Elliot, I'm sorry, okay? I promise to talk to you more. Just please, don't do that."
After that incident, their relationship took a turn for the worse, especially after Elliot sent Maya an explicit image of himself and demanded one in return.
"I need some comfort, but Elliot, I'm prove it. How? Show me an explicit picture of yourself. What? No.
Maya would stop responding to Elliot's messages altogether, and just as he had always done in the past, he threatened to leave this earth and would even send a picture of himself attacking himself. And that was the final nail in the coffin for Maya, as she would cut him off completely. After Maya tried to expose him in a now deleted tweet, Elliot tracked Maya down on Discord and threatened her using the personal information he'd gathered. And as more and more people came forward, Elliot would try to shut them up by threatening to hurt them. But when his tactics didn't work, he decided to release a tweet longer, apologizing for his actions.
I'm deeply sorry for those I hurt. It was never my intention to hurt anyone. I tried to keep it above board. I thought everything was consensual and safe. I tried to tell myself I could make it ethical with clear communication and boundaries. I was so wrong and I realized it, which is why I try to come clean to everyone I know. Log off and get therapy. What is true? All of the screenshots of the chat logs. Yes, all of the cringy explicit talk. Yes, I did threaten to leave this earth if it got out. I didn't think through the severity of that. I'm sorry. What is not true? That I knowingly did anything with anyone not of age. That I did not respect someone's pronoun changes. I was not waiting for someone younger to become older. I flatly rejected them.
Then on February 16th, 2023, the moment everyone was waiting for finally arrived. HoYoverse released an official statement addressing the situation.
Dear travelers, after communications with the voice recording agency, we hereby confirm that Elliot Gindi, the English voice actor for Tainari, will no longer be voicing the character in subsequent versions due to a breach of contract.
This statement brought a wave of relief across the community, and for the first time in weeks, the comment section was filled with messages of gratitude and support.
That's crazy. Honestly, fucking wild.
These are the
It's funny because I pretty much know all of them except for like maybe I think like 1 or 2 on this entire list. But yeah, that's pretty cool though. Ah, dude. Ah, the memories, the memories. Ah, good times, good times. Anyways, that's the end of the video. And yeah, I was kind of expecting a little bit more disturbing, to be honest. Like there were some disturbing ones, right? But there were some funny ones in here. But I was expecting like, I don't know, maybe someone dying or something like that, or something even far worse, you know. But no, it's wild. But like I was there when I was there when all of this happened. All of this happened, except for like maybe like 1 or 2 or so, because those were part of China or so. But I was kind of expecting a little bit more, I don't know, maybe a little bit more crazier. So, but who knows? But anyways, that's the end of the video. And